guys, we're here at Comic-Con 2018. I'm here with the creators and beautiful Nichelle Nichols from The Bridge. Now, this is a documentary all based on fandom, something that we're all familiar with because we are here at Comic-Con. What sparked doing this documentary?
Well, I tell you, my love for the genres, my love for horror films, science fiction, science fantasy, comic book movies.
There you
go. Right. I hope that all came through. So yeah, it's just my love for the storytellers, my love for the artists, their designs, the artwork, the actors, you know, the music, the scores, the inspiration that they give to everyone, you know. And at the end of the day, there's really great modern day mythology, and there's really great morals to be told in these stories. It's all about love and sacrifice, and just good stuff in there.
And Carrie, now I know that you started with Starlog, and that's how we got the title from The Bridge. And this is not your first rodeo. This is not your first Comic-Con. So talk
No,
to me about
indeed.
the evolution of what you've seen from when you first started coming to what it is now.
It's been a fantastic, huge, and very exciting growth. From when we started Starlog, which was in 1976, we started not as a monthly magazine. Our distributor wouldn't let us publish monthly because he said there's no audience out there for a monthly science fiction magazine. He said we were going to lose our shirts. And so we started as a quarterly magazine. And Comic-Con had just started in 1970. That was the first one. And I don't know how many people there, but it was nowhere near the crowd that's here today in San Diego. I mean, this is, from what I understand, it's 185,000 or something like that. Well, it may have been a few dozen back in those days. And fandom, when we started Starlog, was fairly invisible. It was hidden, and a lot of fans were kind of embarrassed to be called fans. It was not a compliment to say you were a geek or a nerd, you know, or a Trekkie.
A trekker.
Shrek.
I know, they didn't want to be called Trekkies.
I know I call them Trekkies, and every time we call them Trekkies, the person would say Trekker.
That's right. How times have changed.
How times have changed, and
Yes.
one thing that fandom has done, along with science fiction, which you're a huge part of, has brought people together. And I think throughout the course of your film, we kind of get to explore that. Now,
Yes.
You got some advice to stay on the show due to Dr. Martin Luther King, which was just an amazing story. How has science fiction, this is for all of you guys, especially you, how has science fiction really bridged community and breaking down racism and seeing race from a different light, especially in the 1960s?
Well, one of the things we did was ignore anything that was negative and speak positively to that person. If they hated the show, we say, well, what did you think about, which one did you like the best, or what was there that caused you to keep turning it on?
Sure.
And they, that's like, oh, yeah, I do keep turning it on, don't I? And they said they just keep looking for what we were going to say.
Right.
Especially each actor, you know, not what the show was going to say, but how we actors were handling it. And that became very popular because they began to do that with each other, you know. Because, oh no, I know because Nichelle said it or this one said it on that, on the show, and I know that's because, and it's all the way, I know that's so because. And that was kind of wonderful to be part of that.
It's
you know.
amazing. Now,
Yeah.
during your exploration into fandom, what is one thing that you've seen throughout a common thread? Because one thing that I always found interesting about different fandoms is that though they may have different likes, it is still a like-minded passion for something. So what is the one thing that you've followed, you've been able to find through doing this documentary?
I think that maybe camaraderie. People coming together, sharing their common love of something. And of course maybe it's Spider-Man or maybe it's Transformers or X-Men or Superman.
Sure.
But I think that anything that brings people together in a positive way is great. And that's what I say about fandom. Fandom, it's like you said a minute ago. It's about all people of the world, all races, all religions, all sexual creeds, and it goes beyond borders. It goes beyond so many things. It's just a uniting thing. I can't think of many things that unite people in such a positive way, more so than the fandom of these particular genres.
Now, Carrie, obviously,
I agree.
yeah, absolutely, I totally agree. Carrie, you're obviously a huge Star Trek fan. I would say that's a bit of an understatement.
Oh yes.
bit of
Well,
an
I mean, when the first issue of Starlog was all about Star Trek because there wasn't any other science fiction that was being produced in those days. Star Trek even was off the air. It had finished its 3-year initial run on television several years earlier.
Sure.
So all we did was an episode guide in that issue and interviews and articles all about Star Trek because that's pretty much all there was. So needless to say, that launched our magazine, and it was hugely important to me. And later on, because I went to a lot of conventions as a guest, I got to meet Nichelle and Leonard Nimoy and Gene Roddenberry, who
Sure.
became a very dear friend, and George Takei, who is the host for this documentary From the Bridge. And, it just, the whole Star Trek crew became kind of my family too, and very dear to me, not only because of, the show that they had done and how positive spirited that was, but because they provided the ammunition for the magazine that launched all of my fan magazines like Cinemagic and Fangoria and Future Life and Comic Scene, all of those magazines.
Now, from your exploration into this documentary as well, what have you learned that maybe you didn't know before about fandom? Just fandom in general.
Well, we've interviewed more than 30 amazing people for this documentary. And to me, the exciting thing was hearing some really fantastic people telling their own personal stories of how they got involved in fandom.
Sure.
And especially, of course, how the magazines and the other things that I produced influenced them and kind of brought their passion out into the open, and in some cases made it a part of their careers. I mean, there's people like Robert Rodriguez and Guillermo del Toro and J.J. Abrams who are in this business partly because they were educated and inspired by my publications. So that was very exciting to learn, and I learned a lot of that in the interviews that Spencer did for this documentary.
Now, Nichelle, question for you is, and I'm sure you've been asked this a ton of times, but I got to know for myself, is that did you ever in your wildest imagination think that Star Trek was going to not just transcend fandom, but actually bridge the gap into bringing people together from different walks of life, whether it be race, sexuality, it doesn't matter. Did you ever think that it was going to have that kind of effect on the world?
I would have been shocked if it didn't. I knew so many, I got so many fan mail that said, we love the show because, and it always, because it in one way or another, they were saying, it brings us together.
Right.
And some of them would say, well, I had an argument with so-and-so because this is a... And so we said, let's write Nichelle Nichols and see if she says this because I know. And I always had a division of response. You're correct because of this and you're correct because of that. And they were just delighted.
Amazing.
So was I.
Well, on that note, guys, this documentary seems amazing, and I love fandom and I love Comic-Con, and this is the perfect documentary if you're a fan of Comic-Con or any kind of fandom. So check it out, From the Bridge.
So, and I'd also like to direct everyone, if you're really interested in the film to know more, check out FromTheBridgeMovie.com. We have a ton of information there, so if you're interested, please check it out.
FromTheBridgeMovie.com. Check it out. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. It was an honor.
And we
Thank
love
you, Joe.
Thank you.